to Israel Now News. I'm Rebecca Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan El Rom.
In our top story, UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, is set to vote on declaring the ancient Israelite city of Jericho as a Palestinian heritage site. This move is just the latest in a series of anti-Israel measures taken by UNESCO and is meant to undermine Israeli sovereignty in Judea and Samaria. In an attempt to erase the biblical connection of the Jewish people to the Promised Land, UNESCO also declared that the Temple Mount is a Muslim holy place and announced that the Tomb of the Jewish Patriarchs in Hebron is an endangered Palestinian heritage site. Both Israel and the United States withdrew from UNESCO during the Trump administration, citing its anti-Israel bias, but President Biden promptly rejoined the corrupt institution at a cost of over $600 million in back dues. MK Dan Iluz, the head of the Knesset's Land of Israel caucus, penned a letter to UNESCO Director Audrey Azoulay, explaining that Jericho is first and foremost a city of biblical significance, and blurring that fact as an insult to millions of Jews and Christians all over the world.
The Palestinian Authority is bracing for the likelihood that Saudi Arabia will normalize relations with the Jewish state. Increasing threats from Iran have pushed members of the Saudi royal family to explore improving ties with the United States and Israel. According to the New York Times, Washington has launched a vigorous campaign to encourage Saudi recognition of the Jewish state and a future peace agreement. High-ranking members of the Biden administration traveled to Riyadh to energize the negotiations. The PA previously chose to boycott any Arab nation willing to normalize ties with the Jewish state. This change of tactics by the Palestinians is viewed as a desperate attempt to gain concessions in the talks between Jerusalem and Riyadh. Terror leader Mahmoud Abbas is demanding more control in Judea and Samaria, as well as the resumption of Saudi aid to the Palestinian Authority. He also wants the United States to open a Palestinian consulate in Israel's capital, Jerusalem.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu traveled to Cyprus for a trilateral summit with his Greek and Cypriot counterparts. The three world leaders discussed regional issues and the possibility of installing an alternative pipeline to transport natural gas across the Mediterranean Sea into Europe. They also advanced plans to finalize a major energy deal, which would see the connection of the country's power grids. The three-way agreement to create an energy highway will involve the construction of a 2,000-megawatt cable crossing the eastern Mediterranean Sea, making it the world's longest and deepest underwater electronic installation. Israel, Greece, and Cyprus have increased cooperation in the areas of energy, defense, tourism, technology, and cybersecurity. Netanyahu hailed the partnership between the nations, which he said is becoming stronger with each passing year.
The Jewish people once again became the villain in a libelous disinformation campaign that spread like wildfire on social media after a mob of illegal Eritrean migrants rioted in Tel Aviv. The asylum seekers, those for and against the current government in Eritrea, fought each other, causing major damage and injuries to Israeli police and bystanders. More than 140 people were hurt in the violence, including 50 police officers. Dozens of social media posts claim that Israeli police had brutalized the African refugees, despite overwhelming video footage proving that the violence was perpetrated by the illegal residents.
The counterterrorism unit of Israel's National Security Council has issued a travel advisory to Israelis planning to go abroad during the upcoming Jewish high holidays. The warning stressed that there are credible threats by Iran and Hamas to kidnap and harm Israelis. It noted that Jews living in or visiting countries in Africa, the Mediterranean basin, and nations bordering Iran are at risk. It also cautioned that there is an elevated threat level in Sweden and Denmark.
Lockheed Martin has won a bid to build 35 Sikorsky CH-53K helicopters for the U.S. government, 8 of which are earmarked for America's greatest ally, Israel. The contract is worth $2.7 billion. This latest announcement is in addition to last year's agreement by the defense giant to manufacture 4 of the advanced aircraft for Israel. The multi-mission helicopters are expected to be delivered in 2026 and will become operational only after Israel installs its own software system, which is standard practice for any military aircraft purchased abroad.
IDF soldiers escorting a group of Jews to pray at Joseph's tomb became the target of Arab terrorists. The off-duty soldiers were walking through the biblical city of Shechem to secure the route for 1,500 faithful pilgrims to pray at the patriarch's gravesite when terrorists opened fire and detonated explosives, injuring 4 Israeli soldiers. David Friedman, the former U.S. ambassador to Israel, spoke out against the violence and noted that preventing Jews from visiting holy sites in areas under PA control is a violation of the Oslo Accords. Jews and Christians are mercilessly persecuted and brutalized in the PA, and their holy sites are repeatedly desecrated. Joseph's tomb has been vandalized and burned on several occasions, and Jews wishing to pray there have become targets of Arab terrorists.
Deadly weapons have been discovered hidden in an Arab nursery school near Hebron. IDF Lieutenant Colonel Gilad Mills said a gun, a grenade, and ammunition were found under a mattress within easy reach of crawling children at the daycare center. Arab terrorists are notorious for using civilians as cover for their illegal activities. Weapons, including rocket launchers, have been found in public schools and hospitals. The IDF searched the nursery and the surrounding civilian buildings based on information it received of increased terror activity in the area.
Doctors at Jerusalem's Shaare Tzedek Hospital have implemented the use of augmented reality and robotic technology to repair a complicated spinal fracture. In a global first, the surgeons combined AR with robotic technology to repair the broken back. The minimally invasive procedure was precise and expedient, resulting in a rapid recovery. The patient was walking the very next day and was discharged from the hospital just 5 days after surgery. Dr. Cesar Mizrahi explained that the robotic assistant achieves perfect registration, providing 3-dimensional recognition, and the AR technology minimizes risks in complex procedures, such as placing a screw in the spinal cord. The headset worn by surgeons allowed them to view the patient's scans while operating, which expedited the surgery, decreasing the risk of paralysis and neurological deficits.
Archaeologists excavating near the city of David have unearthed 2 channels dating to the First Temple period. Experts believe the 2,800-year-old installations were part of a production facility that was important to the Judean kingdom's economy. Archaeologists enlisted the help of the Forensic Investigation Unit of the Israeli police in an attempt to determine the purpose of the channels. Dr. Yiftach Shalev from the Israel Antiquities Authority explained they have never seen structures like this before, and so far they've been unable to interpret them. He said the canals were truly unique and likely served the temple and the city of David, which was the heart of Jerusalem at the time.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hailed the ties between Christians and the Jewish state of Israel. In an address to more than 400 Christian leaders, Netanyahu declared that Christians are Israel's best friends. He encouraged Christians around the world to visit the Jewish state where they will be embraced. The virtual conference was organized by the head of the Friends of Zion Museum, Mike Evans, who said Prime Minister Netanyahu has a great admiration for the evangelicals of the United States. Evans touted the accomplishments for Israel under the Trump administration, which he said were initiated by the evangelical Christian community.
Lena Stern, the widow of Yuri Stern, a former member of the Knesset and the founder of the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus, has received the Presidential Medal of Honor for her work with cancer patients. Following the death of her husband from cancer, Lena created the Yuri Stern Foundation, a nonprofit organization that provides holistic treatments to cancer patients. Today, volunteers with the Yuri Stern Foundation provide more than 12,000 complimentary treatments to cancer patients throughout Israel. Lena's selfless desire to comfort and provide relief to cancer patients earned her the respect and praise of President Isaac Herzog, who presented her with the Medal of Honor at a special ceremony at his residence in Jerusalem.
The Western Wall Heritage Foundation has completed its biannual inspection of the Western Wall stones. During the high holidays, hundreds of thousands of Jews pray at the Western Wall, known fondly as the Kotel. The manual examination of the integrity of the ancient stones is completed twice yearly to ensure the safety of pilgrims praying at the holiest site in Judaism. A team of engineers worked with officials from the Israel Antiquities Authority who checked and cataloged the stability of each stone and deemed it safe for the upcoming holy days.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here in our beautiful studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Natan Sharansky. He is the chairman of the Combat Antisemitism Movement. Natan, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, Natan, you really don't need any introduction. You are a freedom fighter, a member of Knesset formerly, head of the Jewish Agency, former minister. But now you've taken on a very important role as chairman of the Combat Antisemitism Movement. Can you tell us about what is the Combat Antisemitism Movement?
Well, it's not a new topic, anti-Semitism for me. I'm dealing with it almost all my life. But it's definitely a new organization and a very important one, which tries to be like a platform for many other organizations who are fighting anti-Semitism in the academy, on the left, on the right. And we really have to find a way to coordinate our efforts. And also, international definition of anti-Semitism, which is, of course, is very important because it really connects between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. It's very important that as many countries, as many states, as many universities, as many organizations as possible will recognize it. And that's what we are doing, going from one country to the other country, from one group to the other, trying to organize real dialogue between Christians, Jews, and Muslims on this topic, how to fight together anti-Semitism on all fronts.
Yeah, it used to be that they would say, we're not anti-Semitic, we're not anti-Jewish, we're actually anti-Israel. But now in a lot of cases in Europe, the United States, they're actually saying, no, we're actually anti-Jewish as well. Why are we seeing such an explosion of anti-Semitism?
In 2000, when there was Durban Conference, and the first United Nations Conference against racism. And all what went out of it is declaration that new South Africa, new apartheid, that's Israel. And then we said, but isn't it anti-Semitic what you're demonizing Israel in such a way? And they were saying, no, that's legitimate criticism of Israel. That's when I proposed my 3D definition, demonization, double standard, and the legitimization of Jews. That's also all against Israel. It's all anti-Semitism. Today, finally, it becomes more clear. People don't need to mask their feelings against Jews by using Israel and vice versa. And I think it's good. I think it's good that when we see a spade, we call it a spade. And when we see anti-Semitism, we should, when people are speaking against Zionism, we should not hesitate to tell them, you are anti-Semites.
Well, it used to be that anti-Semitism came mostly from the right, but now we're seeing a lot of the anti-Semitism is coming from the left. Yet people are not combating that type of anti-Semitism. What is the organization doing to call out progressive anti-Semitism?
Anti-Semitism on the left is not a new phenomenon, but you're right that in the last years it became much stronger. Let's see what happened. First of all, on the right, there was always traditional anti-Semitism when any problem with the world, in fact, Jews are accused. Like the last example was COVID, and there was a campaign that Jews were interested in COVID, Jews organized COVID, or Jews made money on COVID, and all this. Mainly it comes from the right. Now, on the left, it came with all these progressive theories, or critical theories, which remind me Marxism-Leninism, if in the word critical race theory, instead of the race, you will put class theory. That's exactly what we were learning in the Soviet Union. Every year in school, in university, you have to pass exams on Marxism-Leninism. And what they were said, that all the world is divided between oppressors and oppressed, oppressors, or capitalists in this case, they are always wrong. Oppressed are always right. Oppressors should not be given the right to speak. They should be destroyed. You have to listen only to the oppressed. And if you look what's happening with the so-called progressive movement or woke movement, that's exactly this that in our case, Palestinians are always oppressed. Israel and Jews are always oppressors. We should not permit to Zionists to express their point of view because it makes feel uncomfortable oppressed people, and so on and so on.
Well, we're also seeing it actually in the latest campaign of the Biden administration. They came out with a campaign against anti-Semitism. They invited the anti-Semitic Muslim Brotherhood organization CARE to it. They didn't talk about any progressive anti-Semitism. So how do you fight anti-Semitism if you don't know where it's coming from?
Anti-Semitism on the right should be fought by the organizations on the right. And anti-Semitism on the left, if you want it to be successful, the fight must be fought, first of all, by organizations on the left. You cannot proudly say that you're against anti-Semitism and you're not ready to fight anti-Semitism in your own camp. That's why I believe that ADL has to concentrate its efforts on the anti-Semitism on the left, while of course Republican coalition organizations should be dealing with anti-Semitism on the right. Otherwise, what's happening is only part of political campaign. If the organization on the left will be fighting all organizations on the right, it makes no influence in the world. And while we have such a rise of the left anti-Semitism, if you are on the left and you are not ready to fight anti-Semitism on the left, it means that you support anti-Semitism.
Natan, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
First of all, in our mutual struggle against anti-Semitism, Christians who really believe in the ideal of, in the image of God created a man, are our first allies. I felt it in Soviet prison. I felt it fighting for the rights of Israel as a minister, and I feel it very strongly today. If we want the better world, we have to fight anti-Semitism together, and we can win.
Thank you, Natan, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the truth from Zion.
Hundreds of people are dead and thousands are suffering in jail in Iran today, and it's all part of the Iranian people's brave fight for women's rights.
They're protesting the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini in Iran.
In September of 2022, 22-year-old Mahsa Amini died in a hospital after being detained by Iran's morality police.
The UN says Amini was with her brother in the capital when she was arrested last week for what was considered to be an improper hijab or head covering. There are reports she was beaten on the head with a baton. Amini fell into a coma shortly after being arrested and died 3 days later.
Medical scans leaked to the press reveal that she suffered a cerebral hemorrhage due to head injuries she received following her arrest.
The incident sparked unprecedented protest across Iran, with 20,000 people arrested and more than 500 killed.
Iranian society flooded the streets, raging against the morality police and getting furious over the unjust killing of Amini. People around the globe who remember a more liberal Iran lament the days when women were free and more integrated members of society. Since the Iranian Revolution, Iranians have been living under Sharia law, the code for daily living in the Muslim world. It tells Muslims how to pray, fast, donate to charity, and live every aspect of their lives. One of these aspects includes how women should dress. Iranian protesters say it should be a woman's personal choice to wear a head covering or not. During the regime of Iran's former Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, women in Iran began to enter society in a bigger way. The Tehran University opened in the nation's capital in 1936 and accepted both men and women. This was a big win for female education. And by 1963, women acquired the right to vote and even run for parliament. At that time, 6 women were democratically elected to the government. The country went through what was called the White Revolution, which was a 6-point reform program by the Shah. One of the reforms radically improved the lives of women by allowing them to request a divorce and gain custody of their children. Before this, men could divorce their wives without reason and automatically gain custody of the children. The marriageable age for women was raised from 13 to 18 years old, and men needed the court's permission to take a second wife. Under these reforms, literacy rates doubled. Iran even had a Women's Liberation Day, which was celebrated annually and was part of the Women's Awakening Project, which was instituted by the Shah's father. In 1978, there were 22 women in parliament and 333 women elected to local councils. A third of all university students were female, and 2 million were in the workforce. That all changed when the monarchy was overthrown in 1979 during the Iranian Revolution. When the takeover was complete, the new Islamic Republic removed women from their roles in government. Women after the first grade were forced to wear the hijab. The family laws that offered women divorce and child custody were erased. Men could divorce a wife with a simple declaration. Polygamy became unregulated for men, and the marriageable age for women was dropped down to 9 years old. Today, as women fight for their rights, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard has become increasingly more strict. You can frequently see clips online of women arguing with officers who are trying to arrest them for the way they dress or exposing their hair. The officers often bring female representatives who try to shame the women into adjusting their headscarves. Many of those who resist are imprisoned. People from around the world have been utilizing social media to show global support, including Israelis.
International solidarity with these brave Iranian women is crucial, and I have already joined their call. Women, life, freedom, zan, zondagi, azadi.
One social change group in Israel even created a mural showing the faces of women who suffered in order to stand their ground. In December of 2022, the United States introduced a resolution to remove Iran's male representative from the Commission on the Status of Women within the United Nations. The measure easily passed. It is incumbent upon all of us to support the human rights of women and girls in Iran and around the world. And now, shining light from Israel.
Rich in biblical archaeology and natural beauty, the beautiful Hula Valley, located 10 miles north of the Sea of Galilee. One of the most important biblical cities here in the Hula Valley is Tel Hatzor, where we're visiting right now. I'm walking through the city gates of First Temple period Hatzor. This 6-chambered gate was built by King Solomon, the son of King David. And archaeologists have determined exactly what we see here is the way it's described in the Bible, giving us concrete evidence of the historical authenticity of the Bible. And that, my friends, is just incredible. Tel Hatzor is located on an ancient trade route called the Via Maris. The Via Maris connected Egypt, Africa, and Asia. It is described as being the head of all the Canaanite kingdoms here in the land of Israel. And the excavations here have revealed significant ancient archaeological finds, many of which are found in the Israel Museum in Jerusalem. After Joshua conquered Hatzor, he burned it to the ground. And you can see right here the ash from the destruction that took place here, literally 3,300 years ago. the water system carved out of the rock nearly 150 feet into the ground, where there'd be another tunnel traversing the landscape to a pool of water. And why go through all of this trouble? To ensure that the water supply would be inside the city in case of siege. Now come with me as we explore more of the Hula Valley. Welcome to the Agamon Nature Park, a project that was developed by the Jewish National Fund. The reason being, as you look out onto this beautiful landscape, I want you to realize that this is one of the most important bird migration routes in the entire world. Birds leaving Europe in the wintertime, heading south towards Africa, pass through this valley every single year before returning in the spring. Let's now head down and see all the amazing activities one can do here. So the park has an incredible state-of-the-art visitor center that kids enjoy. It's IMAX theater, as well as these virtual reality goggles that make you feel like you're flying with the cranes over the Hula Valley and even straight across all of Israel. In addition, once inside the park, they got this great circular route that brings you to various places around the park to view the wildlife. You can see it by foot, rent bicycles, bring your own, or what I choose to do, rent a golf cart, and it enables you to see the entire park. One of my favorite stops on the route is the Botanical Gardens. It's a lush green area where you get to learn a little bit about the ecology, the various plants that grow here in the Hula Valley, and honestly, it's just a stunning park to take some great pictures with your family. Wow, it's so incredible to see the variety of plants that are growing here in the Botanical Gardens. In fact, there are over 100 plants here, many of them endangered. Come, let's check out more of the park. Wow, this is really incredible. You can literally stop anywhere you want on this path and see hundreds of birds. Right now, we're looking east. You have the Golan Heights over there, and there must be hundreds of cranes right now resting and feeding here in the valley. They also have these wagon tours at sunrise and sunset, and on any given day during the migration season, you might have 250,000 birds landing at sunset, from pelicans to flamingos to cranes. It really is a sight to behold. Wow, absolutely stunning. Make sure on your next visit to come to the Hula Valley. You can come for the biblical archaeology, but stay for the incredible beauty.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Rebecca Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan El-Rom, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.